Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome in the elements. Earth, air, wind, fire, water, ether. Remember, only light and love is welcome into the space. As always, welcome to the sacred space. We're going to talk about the third stage or phase of the awakening process. All right, if you haven't seen the first two videos, please go check those out. I did those yesterday. All right, so stage 3 or phase 3, okay? This is where you start seeking. All right, you start seeking expansion and you start exploring whether you are mildly already kind of tuned into spiritual stuff. I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about spiritual stuff. You start seeking, you become the seeker, okay? So there must be, so the thing you might be thinking to yourself is there must be something more, there has to be something more, and I'm gonna find it, okay? It's a very enthusiastic childlike energy in stage 3. It's that seeking energy, that fun energy. So what happens in stage 3? So you start becoming more and more drawn to spirituality, psychology, healing practices like Reiki, maybe intuitive massages, shamanic healing, different classes, maybe past life regressions. You're very drawn to maybe sound bath, meditation type group things, maybe more yoga type practices. Meditation, breath work. You might be more interested in plant medicine. Be mindful, don't get lost in the sauce. It is a tool. Connect with the plant. Don't just haphazardly use plant medicine. And if you're using things like bufu, which I don't think is plant medicine, but like ayahuasca and those other plants, you make sure you do your research on that and be mindful. But again, if you're using, which is funny, I'm talking about that. If you're using this particular plant, again, create ceremony, create intention, connect with the spirit of the plant, because that's going to help you. And when I am guided to use plant medicine, it's during those times where I'm going through a deep integration and healing and purging process, and I want to go deeper into like meditation. So it's to help me go deeper into meditation. So I schedule it that way. Breath work, astrology, different things like that. You're going to start seeing a big increase in the signs and the synchronicities. Your intuition's going to sharpen. You're just going to be sharper, 222 on the timer. There's a key code and sign synchronicity for you. All right, what does phase 3 or stage 3 feel like? Hope, curiosity, wonder. You feel a little more guided and or protected, or both, okay? The shadow aspect of this particular phase is you might experience some spiritual bypass, that spiritual ego, which I experienced in the early parts of last year, okay? But my highest and my team got me right back on track, okay? So the other shadow side of this is you're chasing the highs or that being awakened feeling. It's not being high on your own supply all of the time, okay? So stage 3 is, again, that seeking expansion phase, and the primary chakras associated with this are the solar plexus and the heart chakra. So the solar plexus, which is between above the belly button, okay? So the nutrition, so I'm also going to go into a little bit of the nutrition, is you're going to be probably drawn or pulled or guided towards quote-unquote clean eating. Again, coming from the fitness industry, I'm not a big fan of that 333 on the timer for another sign or synchronicity for you, or lighter plant-based type eating. Again, more fruit, more easy to digest vegetables, less processed foods, all right? You might become curious more about fasting, water fasting, juice fasting, smoothies, different forms of cleansing and fasting, different supplements, different herbs, okay? Your digestion will probably start improving when you start lowering your stress. So you'll notice that stress has a big hold on how you digest things. And if you've been in a flight or fight state most of your life, which most of us have, your digestion gets really shitty, okay? So stress can cause a great amount of digestive issues. So foods to help support you during this time are very colorful. Plants, ferment, like fermented, find what works for you. And not everyone's, like pickles and olives and cabbages and sauerkrauts and things like that. Adequate amounts of protein to stay grounded, and you can find what that means. You might actually be called to quit eating meat or to reduce the meat. So there are plenty of beautiful minimally processed ways to consume protein. And as we go through this awakening process, you're going to realize that your eating is going to be completely like a 360, 180, whatever, than it was a year ago or 6 months ago, okay? Depending on where you're at in the process. All right, so the protein's going to help you stay grounded, but again, root vegetables will also. So avoid the purity of trying to keep things pure, the purity obsession, the perfect session, or the dogma around that. It's, again, very easy if you've come from the health and wellness industry. That's been part of my lesson in this journey, is not to get so dogmatic or this purity obsession, okay? For your nervous system in this particular phase is you might have swings between excitement and dysregulation. So again, finding things to co-regulate from phase 2, again, to continue to find those things that are going to help co-regulate your nervous system. Yin yoga is perfect. Somatic type breath work, somatic work in general, somatic yoga, somatic breathing, meditation, different things will help you. Again, eating foods that are going to help you regulate and re-regulate your nervous system, because your nervous system is going through a big transition as well right now, okay? So you might have peak experiences followed by big crashes. So I definitely experienced this well. You have big experiences, you're like high, and then you have major crashes. So grounding is going to be very important to help you with that, okay? So here we go into those helpful practices. Breath work, balance, not intense, not like Wim Hof or fire breath types, of balanced breath work, okay? Grounding is going to be huge from now on, just in general, okay? Drinking lots of water will help you ground. Not tap water, ever. When I talk about water, I'm never talking about tap water. If you're getting clean, purified water, you add salt back to your water. You add mineral drops because it removes everything. So you can drink lots of water and still be dehydrated, so you need to have minerals. Lots and lots of minerals, super important. That'll help ground you. Bare feet, no socks, no shoes, in the earth. Hands on the tree, hug a tree, tap in. Trees will help you transmute and ground you back down as a great practicing. Salt in the bath water, essential oils in the bath water, salt scrubs in the shower. Again, meditations for groundwork. Again, just focusing on the intention and working with light, frequency, and energy to pull you down. Using the Schumann resonance frequency and energy to ground you back into your physical body. 711 on the timer. So I have to look at that. I've been seeing 711 a lot. That's a huge key code for me. So I need to go look at the spiritual meaning behind that, as well as the angel number. Okay. So because we're also receiving more signs and synchronicities, what time is it right now as I'm speaking this? Go look at the spiritual meaning of that number and the angel number of that, and there's going to be a message there Source says for you. So you want to have regular meals. You want to have regular sleep. You've got circadian biology. You need to not force it, but have regular meals and have good, consistent, regular sleep. Okay, during this phase, you might notice that your relationships, you might be experiencing new spiritual connections. Let's say you get placed in a certain place and you meet somebody and you make a great connection. It's not on that surface level, it's like on that deeper, again, that spiritual connection. You also might finding yourself distancing yourself, quote unquote, from unconscious people. All right, that's a perception. So again, you might just find yourself wanting to be distanced from those that aren't quite understanding what you're going through, because they're not going through it yet, and that's okay. You just distance yourself and give yourself space and set the boundaries, and that's okay. That's where they're at. There's no judgment there, okay? That's where they're at, and this is where you're at, okay? So it's okay to distance yourself if you feel called to. All right, so you desire to maybe be seen more and validated, because you want to share this with everybody, right? So the lessons here, is expansion without embodiment creates imbalance. So we get excited and we start expanding, but we also have to embody all of this as well, okay? Because if we don't, you're going to create a bigger imbalance, okay? So that is for stage 3, phase 3. And again, please get curious outside of what I'm discussing here and see if there's other information out there for you, and the many practices and different things you can do while you're going through these stages, okay? And I'm going to touch on 5 stages, okay? The 5 stages. And so the first one was the wake-up call, right? The wake-up call. And the second one was the dark night in the ego dissolution, the dark night of the soul and the ego dissolution. And today was the seeking and expansion phase. So you may have already gone through all 5 stages. You might have already gone through the first few stages, and you might be in this phase. And it's just information. Knowledge is power, remember? All right, knowledge is understood as wisdom, and knowledge is power. So stand in your power, know who you are, and be okay to be okay with you going through this process, because that's what the time is. 10:10 on the timer. The time is now. Do you remember, beautiful soul? Do you remember why you came here? I'll see you on the next one. Love you. Bye.